Hello again, and welcome to The Luxury of Choice, a B2B sales and business podcast brought to you by the training team of George James Limited. My name is Steve Vaughan. I'm a senior sales trainer here at George James, and I'm also the host and producer of this podcast. And today, we're actually live. We're not live as in we're broadcasting live, but we're actually all together for once in a fantastic Airbnb in Charbury in the Cotswolds in England. So for once, we're actually together as a training team because we've had a meeting here. And I'm joined by my three colleagues, Jonathan Zazinski, Christian Walter, and Pascal Lefloc. So how are we doing, guys? Jonathan, how are you?
Doing great. It's kind of cool to be with everybody around the table.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. And Christian, how are you?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. And Pascal, how's things?
Yeah, very pleased to see that we are all together.
Yeah, we actually have legs. We're not just heads and shoulders on cameras. We've had our team meeting. We've had a very productive meeting working on strategy and also training material to take us forward for the next few months and years ahead. But in terms of our topic today, we're going to look at the world of LinkedIn, and we've explored LinkedIn a little bit before on the podcast. But today we want to look at a specific topic, why your perfect customer is on LinkedIn. And just to give a bit of context to that, I did a bit of research before we started the show today. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network with over 1.2 billion registered members across 200 companies. It has 310 active users per day. The average demographic, interestingly, is 25 to 34-year-olds. That probably rules all us out around this table. It has a global reach of 70 million businesses and 160,000 schools. I guess that means got universities and things as well. And from a gender split, 57.2% are male, 42.8% are female. I'm not sure what that tells us specifically. Why have I gone through those statistics? Being honest, I think most salespeople go on LinkedIn when they're looking for a job. I know I did when I first started on LinkedIn a number of years ago. But it probably is now the premier place for business people to interact with each other in a virtual community. So the topic today, as I say, is why is your perfect customer on LinkedIn? Well, first of all, perhaps we should define what we mean by a perfect customer, guys. So what does a perfect customer mean to you? Anybody want to pick that one up?
Yeah. Someone who wants to buy my product and engage with me on a level about, are they really into training? How important is this kind of, the things that we offer to them?
Sure.
And to me, LinkedIn's a perfect vehicle for that because the search function, we could talk about this a little later, but the search function itself, just being able to filter out people that would be receptive to the message or the things that I'm going to, try to potentially pitch them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll come on to the searching in a little bit. What does perfect customer mean to you, Christian?
It's a customer that has the needs I can fulfill, and they are on LinkedIn because everybody's on LinkedIn.
Not everybody. I know people who specifically
so
refuse to be. Yeah.
And I can actually find them because of all the wonderful search functionalities that are at my disposal.
Yeah. And what about you, Pascal? What's a perfect customer mean to you?
I would say people who want to have long-term relationships with providers as they can see them as partners. So we can easily look for the needs they may have through their posts, or we will discuss this.
Sure.
But then, that's the reason.
Yeah. And I think it's important that in sales we do have a concept of a perfect customer because, all customers are perfect, but some are more perfect than others.
Steve just thought, people buy from people, not companies from companies.
Absolutely right.
If I reach out to companies, it's normally quite unproductive if I don't have a way in, if I don't have a person that I can contact. So I need to find the people that work for the companies that have a need for my products or for my services. Therefore, I have to find these people. In the past, maybe I could find them at exhibitions, or I could perhaps find them in research symposia or places like that. Nowadays, I can find them on LinkedIn, and that's maybe the interesting thing about it.
Yeah, I love how you just talked about, selling to people and people buying from people, because it is a people place. I love being able to identify people through that search. But I did want to bring it back to something, Steve, you said in the opening, which was this is a place that reps used to go to find jobs. And I agree with that. That's kind of what I started using LinkedIn for when it came out. But I will say, seeing salespeople build their brands on there now, LinkedIn's definitely taken on a new role in their careers, and you're seeing salespeople show about their products, their knowledge, their kind of non-value, some of the things that we like to train about through LinkedIn. So it's just not a place to find jobs. It's actually a place, what Christian was saying, is to find people, connect with people, and try to engage with them around the things that you have to offer.
Absolutely. And I should say at the get-go, before we go any further, we're not going to get into the paid versions of LinkedIn today. So obviously there are things like Sales Navigator, which are premium products. If you've got that, guys, great. We're not going to get into that today.
It's not necessary.
I don't think it is, no.
Just, maybe be a little bit provocative.
That doesn't sound like you, Christian.
Now I'm nervous.
It can be a bit cringe as well.
It can be very cringy.
These guys all telling about their great achievements and creating double-digit growth here and saving the world there and doing all these wonderful things. Everybody's trying to position themselves in the bestest of lights, but actually, is that necessary? I think it's maybe more relevant to be yourself and to be authentic.
What do you think, Pascal?
I do agree. I was close to talk about the networking power of LinkedIn and the ability we have to express how we are, but also show the customers or the potential customers who they could deal with, who is behind a service, a product, and whatever. Because as you said, it's a B2B system, but people buy from people.
Sure. So with the statistics that I gave at the start of the recording, the chances are, not everybody, the chances are that most of your potential customers are on LinkedIn, and whether they're active on LinkedIn or not is another topic, really. So you mentioned the search function. So what do we mean by searching on LinkedIn without using the paid version? What kind of things can we search for on LinkedIn?
Job role, titles, companies, connections.
Yep.
So I love that because you can kind of filter, I'll look for head of sales enablement, and then I can filter on who am I connected with, or who, where do I have a second or third connection with?
And you're absolutely right. So, when I run training around things like LinkedIn, there is that big search box at the top, which most people seem to ignore. And you can type in, a particular buzzword, single cell genomics or whatever is a relevant buzzword for your industry. And it's amazing what will come up in terms of things like jobs, who's hiring. The chances are if they're hiring, they might be expanding, might need some training, or might need some more products, training in that perspective. Or they might, it might be companies, people that are posting about their topics, and all that stuff's for free, isn't it? None of that stuff means spending any money.
You have to be a little bit smart about it.
Yeah.
Maybe search for a keyword first and then look for that keyword in particular geographies or in particular companies.
But you can filter for that.
Yeah. But you have to be a little bit clever about it, not just put in the keyword and then you get 10 million hits. That doesn't help you much. You need to really narrow it down a bit further.
Because you can easily go down rabbit holes with this stuff as well, for that matter. Yeah. So something you've all alluded to as well is the importance of our own perspective or our own profiles on LinkedIn. So something that I always get amazed by when I train people around things like LinkedIn, they don't seem to consider their own profile. So they'll go and look at a customer and read all about, them and their background and their history. And if we've got an appointment with somebody, hopefully we do that beforehand, but they don't seem to think about their own profile. Do you get that as well, Pascal? Do you see that sometimes in the training?
Yeah, I think that number of people, they are on LinkedIn just because they have to be.
Yeah, that's true.
So what is the value they bring, looking at their profile? And this is what we have to have in mind. I think it's key that at least we have some clear statement about what we bring to others. When we want to connect, what could be the link? What would be the reason people would be interested to go further with us? That should be in the message that we would send.
If somebody's totally, not a social media savvy, I think it's more important that they utilize LinkedIn for prospecting, for finding their customers, but maybe do the outreach through some other means. But, rather than pretend that they are social media savvy and open a profile, and it doesn't fit, particularly if they use all these AI generated posts. I think it is not going to lead to the desired result. I would 100% support that.
If by all means think about using AI, but if you do use it, please use that to give you some ideas, not to give you the chapter and verse of content, really. So we were looking at LinkedIn earlier and looking at some people we were prospecting, and obviously we're not going to mention some names, but some of the profiles we looked at were a bit cringy, if I can use that phrase. And I don't know what you think about this, Jonathan, but I think we sometimes forget that when we write our profiles, do we want our customers to see them? And if so, hopefully we do. What do we want our customers to think about us? Do we want them to use words like highly driven, motivated, passionate, top performing, da-di-da-di-da-di-da? Or do we want to use words that might make them think we're a bit more approachable?
Well, I think the first thing we have to remember, this is social network. Your profile's out there for everybody to see. And I just had this situation with a C-suite executive who was building their profile for the first time in a while. And I read it and I said, this reads so wrong. It just reads all ego, all driven about, your growth, all this kind of stuff. And he said back to me, he's like, yeah, but you're not my audience. My audience is VC. And I'm like, no. You're on a social network. It is everybody who's going to be looking at you. And I going back to the original question was, what are people's profiles? Even my profile wasn't geared towards generating business. I thought it was my resume, but there was really no value. Where's the value that I bring? And I did have to, when I started using LinkedIn to reach out for business versus just kind of connecting with people or looking for jobs, you had to change it. But you have to realize it's a network for everybody, not just the people you're looking for. So,
yeah. And you want to have people who look at your profile, you want them to think, oh, he's got something to say. I want to come back. I want to, maybe follow that person because it's interesting information and it brings me something that otherwise I wouldn't get.
What is the first reading that people could have about watching your profile? So how do you want to appear for others? Yeah. And to me, it's today, what probably works better than before is authenticity.
That's so important. That is so important. Tell us a bit more about what you think you mean by that, because I agree, but tell me a bit more about what you mean by authenticity.
I mean, sharing who you are, not pretending first, not, let's say, just sharing what any other would do if he would be in your position or in your role. So what do you bring to the world? What do you bring to colleagues? What do you bring to customers? What do you bring to your management? Whatever, but something where you think you are different and you bring value.
So important. So important. I think back to this sort of profile and what we put on there and how we describe ourselves. I always think it is networking, albeit in a social media format. And if we were at a conference somewhere and we met somebody, we wouldn't say, "Hey, my name's Steve. I'm the most dynamic, thrusting, positive, top performing," because you're going to think you're some kind of weirdo, But why do we do that on our LinkedIn profiles? I guess because we think it makes us look great, really. But one of the things I always try and encourage people to think about is write your profile about your customer, not about you, about what your customer would want to know. And I guess even more importantly, why you do what you do. Everybody's on LinkedIn, has a choice in terms of their career and what they focus on. And why do they do it? And I don't mean the salary, that's the output. Why do you do what you do, Jonathan?
I take immense joy in trying to better people's skills and
absolutely,
and that I like to think that my profile does reflect that.
Yeah, and it does.
The things that I've done in my career and the way I position myself. Again, you try to get away from the cringe and try to get into the reality, the authentic. I think once you can do that, that's when you have those real reach outs. Going back to Christian, the person to person reach outs. I mean, I don't want to hear, I'm going to increase your funnel by 8x. Okay, who are you? And why do you do what you do?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Christian?
So I believe we need to kind of differentiate between using LinkedIn for outreach, for finding target people. So that's rather functional. It's a beautiful tool. it's a tool. There are other tools available, but I think it's the best tool available. It has the search functionality. It has groups, for example, a super resource.
Yep.
You got a group on analytical chemistry. You got groups on medicinal chemists, formulation people. You can really narrow it down to the business you are in, and you can find relevant targets. And that's a relatively mechanistic way of using LinkedIn. So that's the prospecting side. And then there's the social selling side, where it's more a soft approach. You provide some relevant content. You reach out maybe with some posts that could mean something to your target customers, and you wait what happens. The more you do it, the more response you get, the more interaction you get, and all of a sudden there's actually a positive dynamic developing. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, and thanks, Christian, because you let's say an example came to my mind when you say posting something which is meaningful for your audience. It reminds me a services guy who say that, yeah, I'm here to support customers and to fix problems. So you could say, yeah, fine, we understand what he's doing, but it's not enough. So what he did is that he posted on a regular basis the different type of instrument breakdown and how we help customers to fix this, and being very honest, but showing, the day-to-day life he had and so on. And step by step, he got hundreds of new views, and suddenly he started to be connected to deliver services. So that's fantastic. So
absolutely, but it takes time.
It takes time.
You can't.
Yeah.
So many people I speak to say, "Oh, I put a post on LinkedIn and nothing happened, so it's a waste of time." And they probably put a post of them. And forgive me if you've done this recently, guys, but it's probably a post of them standing, looking bored by a creased tablecloth in a lobby at a chemical company somewhere with a bit of brochures and a bit of kit on a table. That isn't posting regularly on LinkedIn. That is just putting a picture on it.
You mean the tabletop show?
Yeah, you know the ones I mean. The two guys standing there. We're all set up at the University of Fred Smith, looking bored. Please come and see us, and so we can sell to you. I mean, I know I'm being facetious, but
don't look at my post history.
But that isn't posting regularly on LinkedIn. That is just putting something there, and I wonder why nobody sees it.
How often should we post?
That's a really good question. How often do you post?
So I don't post regularly enough. I need a good reason to post. I don't post, on a normal week when I'm out and about, when I have something important to say, then I will post. This week I posted twice. I was in England. I had some positive experiences and still am in England. And I could use this to make some social media posts. But I think you should post multiple times a week, ideally, or at least once a week.
We're getting into dangerous territory here because a lot of people will say, I ain't doing that. What do you think about posting on LinkedIn, Pascal? Is it something you're comfortable doing?
Yes, I am. And the thing is that, algorithm may drive some posting decisions, but it should not be the only reason. Otherwise, you will not be there. As Christian said, you have to post if you have anything to say.
And let's be honest, none of us know how the LinkedIn algorithm works, and it's foolish to try and pretend that we do, or even try and guess what it is. But you must have come across this in your career, John, in sales training and enablement. Not everybody's comfortable putting things on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think you have the people who are very comfortable, and those are the natural ones. And then you have people who they don't want to put themselves out there in that regard.
Yeah. And that's a personal choice. Yeah.
Again, I'm kind of in the middle where I feel comfortable posting. To me, it's just when's the right time to post? What is the right post? And, when I'm on there, I'm like, oh my God, it's like a full-time job for some of these people, seeing what their posts are. And to me, that's the exhausting part of social media, where it's like, what do I have to do? How do I have to keep up? Whereas I would love to just be authentic every once in a while and send something a meeting and have that gain traction. But I don't know if that's the right way to gain traction.
Yeah,
so
good question.
It's one of those things. But again, that doesn't mean that it's still not a tool to reach out. Just because I don't post doesn't mean this is not an excellent tool for me to be on, to read, to learn, and then again, reach out through messaging. And
I think that's a super point. I think, and you said this a while ago, Christian, and we moved away from it, but there's really two facets to this. One is just use LinkedIn as a glorified database, albeit one that's got pictures of people and their job titles and things.
Even better.
If you only do that, you're doing more than lots of salespeople are doing, really. But I guess if you're comfortable doing so, then putting yourself out there, It's a bit different for us guys because we're the product, we're trainers,
Sure.
we're selling ourselves to a large degree. The people may not feel so comfortable about.
I've been recently talking a lot to people about outreach, about prospecting, because that seems to be a big theme at the moment. People need to find customers, find opportunities. So we've been actually teaching the approach to research the perfect customer on LinkedIn, and then maybe finding out something personal about them, something relevant to their specific role at the company they are. And then maybe composing a message that has this personal element. That's the P. Then it has a value to the customer. So we talk about something that's relevant, important, meaningful to that customer. So that's the V. And then at the end, we end the message with a call to action. And that would be the C. So it's PVC.
Yeah.
And so the research starts on LinkedIn, but then maybe we go to email. And we send a PVC message to that person we researched. And the success of those messages is surprisingly high. What do you think, 20%?
The stats definitely, they're way higher with putting in that formula. But just, again, we're human beings. How do we connect with somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a genuine way to connect through what people put on LinkedIn, where you can, when you personalize that, oh, this person actually read my post, or this person actually read the article that I was talking about. That's that.
It's a reason to start a conversation. Hey, I love what you wrote on LinkedIn last week, Pascal. I thought it was great. Could we have a meeting to find out more about what it is you're talking about? I don't think people do that enough, do they?
No.
And again, this is about how we differentiate from others. So people like to see, oh, okay, I've not been approached this way.
Yeah.
So I would be interested to have a better idea who this guy is or who this person is.
And it really works when somebody does their research. I always love to tell the story about my accountant. So she started off about the same time as I did with her own company, accountancy company, one woman band.
Mm-hmm.
And she researched me, and she realized I had started my own consultancy company. And she sent me an email and said, "Hey, I noticed you just started. I just started in a few villages away from you. And now I'm doing accountancy. You must have issues with your accounting. I would love to help you."
Fantastic.
And she's my accountant now. So
Fantastic.
It does work.
So it's research, it's relevance, personalization. Yeah. Like it. What I really, and you guys must get these as well, what really annoys me is somebody, you get a connection request. And by and large, I accept most connection requests. By and large. And you accept it, and then you immediately get somebody pitching.
You'd really like this pharmaceutical list that I have for you. I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Versus what Christian was talking about. Read something about me.
Yeah.
Read something that I've done. Hey, because of this in your profile, I really felt that this could be of value to you. Let me know if it is.
Yeah.
Would love to chat if you can.
What I always say to people, and this is going to show my age now, when you connect with somebody, it's like what they used to say on Star Trek, you've opened a channel. It doesn't mean we're communicating. And you got to find another reason to communicate. Yeah. You're nodding, Pascal. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, if you jump onto the order, like, I want to sell you something, you create the opposite.
Delete.
So first of all, so how connecting together and developing a relationships as in life.
There'll be people listening to this undoubtedly were thinking, nah, that's not for me. I don't do LinkedIn. Nah, I might go on LinkedIn if I need a job, but no, I'm not going to go out on LinkedIn. Now, what's our thoughts about that person listening to that right now?
Their competitors are on LinkedIn.
That's a good point.
People that they're, the people that they're trying to do something with are going to be engaging on it. I get the uncomfortableness. It's just it's another tool to make you successful. And when you're talking about prospecting and reaching out and trying to find customers.
Right. So you're saying it's not optional then? You have no choice?
I would say no. I mean, where people are, again, I don't know if I'm being provided. Where we are in society, if you're thinking about how do we connect with people, you can send a million emails out. No one's going to reply to you. The reply rate on LinkedIn is much higher. And then it's even much higher if we do what Christian talks about, where we personalize, put a call to action, add a value. But if you're not going to engage with it, you're leaving out a whole section of customers that is going to be a lot harder to reach out to in another way.
That's my view. And when people have said that to me in training courses, I say, that's fine. It's your personal choice. But what are you going to do instead?
Exactly.
How are you going to replace that massive opportunity, that sort of database in your pocket called LinkedIn? What would you say, Pascal?
Are you talking about using other ways than?
Well, if you've got somebody on a training course and they said, "Look, I'm just not going on LinkedIn. It's not. I'm not comfortable with it. It's not my thing."
Yeah, let's have a break. Yeah, as Jonathan said, I mean, it's a media that you cannot ignore.
It's very hard to.
So it's like someone who have told me probably 15 years back, I'm not going to use email.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's quite a different story. It's one of the tools, but it's a combination of the media tools that make the difference. So, and the reason I make this point is that some people work with the pharma companies and, for instance, with production guys, even people who are not in LinkedIn, they have not profiles. So it's why should I use LinkedIn? Okay. Maybe you have the company profile on LinkedIn. You can have information about, what they do and so on and so on. And maybe there are other names. There are people from, I don't know, research clinics who could work with, the type of people you target. So even though your targeted customer is not there, there are people in their ecosystem which are present.
Point.
My view is it's a tool at our disposal, and like any tool, adoption is irregular, and older people find it sometimes a bit more difficult. Not as a norm, but sometimes, like when the railways first came, some people decided I'm not going to travel by railways.
I'm not quite that old,
No, but I think it's really important to also challenge ourselves. When particularly if we have got some silver back, we have the T-shirt, got the postcard, and been there. Maybe then we can still learn new tricks, and LinkedIn is a new trick that is actually benefiting our sales practice. Same as email is a new trick that benefited us 15 years ago. AI is a new trick that's benefiting us, and maybe that's for another
podcast.
But these are the new tricks, and even old dogs can learn new tricks.
Absolutely. One last thing I want to explore around the world of LinkedIn, and by the way, we're not sponsored in any way by LinkedIn. Chance to be, if I think. And what do we think about? And we hear this a lot in training that we were in. My company says I have to do this on LinkedIn. I have to put this on LinkedIn. I must do this. I mustn't do that. What are our thoughts on that?
Well, again, you're an employee for a company. So, in some of my former roles, we had social media guidelines.
Okay. Guidelines or rules?
We presented them as guidelines. And again, you want people to follow your guidelines. If you're going to post about the company, it needs to be in a certain way, reflecting the brand in a positive way, things like that. And I think there's definitely something to that, but you get into the gray area because this is social media. Right? This is your personal account, or it can be your personal account.
What is your personal account?
Well, it depends on what email you link to it and all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. But if you're if you're an employee for a company and you're going to be posting something for a company, companies are well within their reason to have guidelines on what they expect, their employees to do. And it's something that we used to train to. We wanted them to follow brand etiquette, brand guidelines, brand messaging, things like that.
Anybody have a different opinion?
I have a slightly different opinion. I used to work for a company that had very strict guidelines on LinkedIn because the CEO believed it was a headhunting portal and people were presenting themselves and to be headhunted away. So it was discouraged to do a lot on LinkedIn. And I think that was not good for that company in the long run. And they're slowly starting to change. So I think it's a fine line. I believe it's important that there's no offensive content.
Of course.
If you have some racist content, for example, from an employee of a company, that's totally unacceptable.
Of course.
On the other hand, I think the company can ask, but it can't request because it's still the personal account, this personal profile.
Guidelines, exactly.
Yeah. And I think in the end, it's a give and take.
Company gets some brand awareness through their employees.
But they need to leave a little bit of freedom as well.
Yeah.
To add on this, maybe something which could help people who are still hesitant or don't know if they are right or no when they publish something. It's about common sense. Let's imagine that you are a salesperson and you want on the customer side, what is the expected behavior that the customer and your company would, wait or you expect from you? So this is about it, So write your post, thinking about it.
Common sense surely applies, and my view is it is your personal profile. However, if you work for a company, they have. I think it's fair enough for them to give you guidelines, but they are guidelines. They aren't, as long as there are things that are, not acceptable clearly, as we've obviously said, really. So, but it's my profile. One of the things that I hear often on training courses is that shouldn't be on LinkedIn. That's Facebook. Who said you can't put something personal on LinkedIn? Where's the highway code decision?
So this is where I will agree with that person. And some of the things that I feel where LinkedIn's going, it's a professional network.
Okay.
It's a network to engage with like-minded professionals or meet people, connect people, find customers. I don't want to see a post about politics. Honestly, I don't want to see you and your family's vacation.
Okay.
I want to talk about what's going on in careers, in jobs, in the environment. For us, it's life science. I want to learn about papers. That's just it was built as a professional network. It still is. But I do get annoyed every once in a while when I'm like, oh God, here we go. Here's another. Yeah.
So you were walking in the Bluebells earlier, Christian, and you put that on LinkedIn?
Yes. I'm a bit more relaxed about bringing personal content to LinkedIn because I think it shows me as a whole person. And I don't believe you can separate who you are in private life from who you are in business. And I like my customers to know me, who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to send pictures from beach holidays and stuff like that. There's always a connection to the business side.
Yeah.
And I also won't put political stuff on. I sometimes have commented on political posts, but more along the lines, hey, it's not appropriate to talk about this here, or it's not I disagree with that, but it's anyway not the right place.
That's the way I feel too.
How do you feel?
No, so far from what my colleagues said, I'm fully aligned in the sense that, again, if you want to share anything, what does it bring to the others? Of course, as we are, all of us around the table, we are freelance. So it's quite a different story. We may be more relaxed, as Christian said, to share more personal stuff. When you're in a corporate organization, there are, let's say, guidelines,
of course,
and even rules. However, it's about you. So it's a question of balance and your style.
I think that's it. I think it's a question of your personal style and your personal brand. What do you want your personal, not your company brand, what do you want your personal brand to be? I want mine to be friendly, approachable, sometimes slightly lighthearted, but also knowledgeable, experienced. And I think with what you post on LinkedIn, if you do post on LinkedIn, you can absolutely control that. Guys, we could talk about LinkedIn for another few hours. I'm conscious that we need to wrap things up because we've got a dinner reservation fairly soon. One final comment from all of you for anybody that's listening to this that is skeptical about using LinkedIn proactively to grow their business. I'm going to start with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, the search function is fantastic. And again, it took an excellent trainer called Steve sitting next to me to let me know that there was more than people searches that you can do on it. But once that opened up, this LinkedIn became this immense database where I can really filter down and search and make those connections. Because again, people sell to people. How do I make the right connection? How do I show my value? But the search function is something people really, really should investigate.
The pre-search function.
It is fantastic.
Absolutely. Christian.
Yeah, I just trained a group of people last week, and I challenged them to do prospecting and outreach, and as a homework, as a task, and to feedback. And one guy sent me his message. He sent to a customer in the pharmaceutical industry, and the customer replied and said, "Hey, we should have a meeting. How about next week?" So it really works, and I think that's my message.
Great one. And for you, Pascal?
It's called social professional network, and there is network in the world here. So what I mean is that please use this to connect people together. If you don't feel comfortable to just talk about you, but you can connect people.
Great point.
And they will see the benefits for them, and then will come back to you later on.
And for me, there's 2 points, if I may. One is that LinkedIn wants people to waste time on LinkedIn, because the more time you spend on LinkedIn, the more you see their advertisers' content. So that's why posting on LinkedIn can be a benefit. And for those of you that are skeptical about posting on LinkedIn, just to know that only 3% of LinkedIn users regularly post content on LinkedIn, which is more than once a week. So if you think you'd like to start posting on LinkedIn, you'll very, very quickly stand out and be visible if you start doing more than the occasional post, and a bit more than standing behind the tablecloth in the lobby. So, Jonathan, Pascal, Christian, thank you very much. It's been great working with you the last couple of days, and thank you for taking the time today for the podcast as well.
Fantastic to be together with everybody.
It's nice to be back together. It's nice to do the podcast face to face. It's very different.
Yeah,
but it's fun as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, dear listener, then don't forget to give us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you use either app, it does help us in lots of weird and wonderful ways. A bit of exciting news. We are planning to take the podcast video format. So in the next few weeks, we're planning to start putting our podcast onto YouTube, and also the video podcasting app in Apple as well, when I've worked out how to do it. So watch the space. We'll be putting more video content of the podcast. And on that basis, I think we should wrap up. Guys, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thank you, dear listener, for listening to us, and we'll be back again soon.